and welcome to the Growth Seat. I'm Patrick Hoban. For today's podcast, I thought that I would read to you and then talk about one of my favorite speeches that I've ever heard. It's from Winston Churchill, and it's the "We shall fight on the beaches" speech. So I'm gonna do the speech to you first, and then we'll talk about it some. All right. I won't say it as near as well or as eloquently as Winston Churchill did, but it's impressive. The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. Even large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule. We shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and the oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, will carry on the struggle until in God's good time the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue in the liberation of the old. This speech to me is so powerful because it's the idea of never giving up. It's the idea of I will be a voice in the darkness. It is so interesting that Winston Churchill had tried to be the prime minister for years before he actually became one. He had tried to move up through politics and do all this and never was elected. He was never promoted to that. And shortly after the Nazi, war and thank God, the win for the Americans and the English and the French, he was demoted again. So he was truly a man for a time in history. And for me, what's such a big deal is each of us as people, as leaders, there are times in our lives, there are times in our own histories where we are supposed to be that person. That we are supposed to be the light in the darkness, the voice in the darkest hour. And what I think is awesome about Churchill is, first of all, great speaker, right? You should listen to that passage from him, not from me, because it is so impressive. Remember that this was the 1940s, so it was done over radio. And this was one of the darkest times in history. The Nazis were just rolling all over Europe and killing millions of people. And they were, obviously killing the Jews in concentration camps. And it was horrible. I mean, Hitler was obviously an evil, evil man. But people stepped up. And Churchill was one of those people. Churchill was one of those people that helped to rally a nation in England. And also he inspired, obviously, the American people to step into the war. But what I think is important is that courage is a choice. All right? Courage is not a feeling. I'm not going to feel courageous today. Courage is discipline. Courage is habit. Courage and strength are something that you develop over time. And there's this great quote thought that being brave is not something you are, it's something you decide. To decide to step into a burning house to save a little kid. That is not something that you think, oh, I wonder if I feel brave today. It's a decision you make to think of something someone greater than you, bigger than you. And that's what Churchill was about. His "We will fight on the beaches" speech talked about the fact that it didn't matter where the Nazis were going to attack them, right? It didn't matter where the English were going to be fighting. They would never stop. They would defend their land. They would defend their freedom. They would defend their belief in what was right and wrong. We all have to do that at times. We all have to make sure that we step up in the darkest hours. We have to make sure that we are speaking truth. We have to make sure that we are the ones who others can look to. All right? We don't have to have all the right words. I mean, the number of times as a leader where I've made a mistake in front of my entire team and I've said, guys, I'm sorry. So screwed up there. Please forgive me. This is what I want to do. Not that, but this. Let's move forward with this. That vulnerability is courage, right? That vulnerability is courageous. Being courageous, being the person who is the light in the darkness, is not about being perfect, right? As a person, as a leader, as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, none of us are perfect. And there's this great graphic that I love that says, you are a work of art and a work in progress. And to me, I never want to forget that. We were born beautiful. We were born great. And the idea is that we're not born perfect, kind of close as babies, but the key is we just need to make sure that we are not believing in all the darkness out there, that we are not great. It's important that we don't believe in all the people who say, gosh, you know what? You're not good enough, strong enough, pretty enough. You're not all these things, because that's what limits us. And Churchill was able to step up in the moment when his country and the world needed him the most. We all have to do that. We all have to recognize that we don't need to be perfect. We just need to step in, all right? Step into the difficult conversation. Step into being there when a person just needs someone to cry with, all right? Step into doing the work when no one else is willing to do the work. Step into doing the right thing, all right? When other people are trying to do the wrong thing. We have to be the ones who will fight on the beaches, fight on the streets, fight in the land, in the sea. All right? We have to be willing to be the ones who don't give in and don't give up. We need to step in, not give in. So please make sure that as a person, as a leader, that you remember that it isn't meant to be easy. You were never promised fair. I tell my kids all the time, I'm sorry that you don't get to do this. You were never promised fair, right? You were never promised that life was going to be easy. But what we can do is do the best that we can with what we have, to be as courageous as we can be, and to be the light in the darkness. It's my challenge for you, is how can you be a light in the darkness? What is it in your life? Where is it in your life that you need to step in? Right? Where do you need to make sure and work a little harder to focus on doing the right thing a little more? Where do you need to be more resilient? Winston was able to have this speech and to rally his people to be able to defeat this evil. What is it in your life that you need to rally around? Who is it in your life that you need to rally with you? Because we're never going to have to do what Winston Churchill did. Thank God. Thank God. But what is interesting is that what are we supposed to learn from it? What are we supposed to learn from this idea of we will never surrender? How will you never surrender? How will you never give in? And you know what? It is easy in the good times to think, oh, yeah, I'm strong, I'm good. Yeah, let's see how strong you are. Let's see how courageous you are when you get hit hard, when you get smacked down, and when you are lying on the ground. There's a great Japanese proverb that says, fall down 9 times, get up 10. And that seems really simple. It's also profound. I don't care how many times you get knocked down, right? I care how many times that you step up, that you get up. My son's getting into his senior year in high school, and he has the chance to have a very good senior season. His team should have a really good year this year. And what is interesting is that I have told my son many times, and he hates when I say it. He'll hate if he hears that I said this on the podcast. I tell him that he was made for greatness. Right? That's my mantra for him. Right? I have a mantra for each of my kids. For my youngest son, my mantra is that you are made for greatness. And greatness does not mean that you are the strongest, the most successful, you make the most money, you're the captain of the team. It means that you serve the most, that you make the biggest impact. That's what greatness is. And what is interesting for me is the challenge I have for all of you, the challenge I have for my son, for all of you, is will you step up when is needed most? Will you basically answer the call like Churchill did? Will you answer the call when you are needed the most? And I hope that my son in his senior season, I hope that he's captain, and I hope that he is the best servant leader on the team. I hope that he's able to rally the team, right? That he's able to be a light in the darkness on the dark days and the hard days, that he's able to have the words to help his team to know that they can get through any challenges that they face. I hope you as a person, you as a leader, know that whether as a spouse, as a parent, as a person, as a leader, that you will be able to step up, that you will be courageous, that you will have the words to rally. All right? I hope that you fight on the beaches. I hope that you know that we all have the ability to be great. Thanks and take care.